Welcome to the Council meeting of the 17th of April 2023. We'll commence by reading the Acknowledgement of Country, and I call upon Councillor Stavrou to read that, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and elders from other communities who may be here today.
Thank you. So welcome to tonight's council meeting. Before we commence the meeting, I request that all mobile telephones are switched off or turned to silent, please. The council meeting is being live streamed on the council website, so you can watch proceedings of the meeting, councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the council website as soon as practicable after the meeting. Should technical problems be encountered during the meeting will be adjourned until the problem is fixed, or if necessary, it may be postponed. My name is Councillor Felicity Sinfield and I am the Mayor of the City of Boroondara. I will start by introducing my fellow councillors who are seated around the horseshoe table in the council chambers tonight. Starting on my left, Councillor Jim Park, Councillor Cynthia Watson, Councillor Nick Stavrou, Councillor Wes Galt, Councillor Di Gillies, Councillor Lisa Hollingsworth, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Gary Thompson, Councillor Jane Addis and Councillor Victor Franco. I also acknowledge our CEO, Mr Philip Storer, seated to my right, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Wee, seated to my left. There are many other officers in attendance this evening and they will be introduced as they present their reports. I will now move to apologies. Mr Wee, are there any apologies for this evening's meeting?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Biggar has an apology this evening.
Thank you. Item 1 on the order of business is the adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of March. Councillors, can I please have a motion to adopt and confirm the minutes? Councillor Galt.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Gillies?
Seconded, thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone opposed? No. I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officer. Councillors and council officers, are there any conflicts of interest you wish to foreshadow for this evening's agenda? No lights on or hands up. Thank you. Item 3 is deputations and presentations, petitions and public submissions. I don't believe there are any, Mr Wee.
No, there aren't, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 4, informal meetings of councillors. I don't believe we have any of those to consider either.
No, Madam Mayor.
Item 5, public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 noon will receive a detailed verbal response as well as a response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Mr Wee, I understand we have received 5 questions tonight?
We have, Madam Mayor. There are 2 questions that were submitted by one person before 12. 2 questions submitted by another person subsequently, and a 3rd question submitted by a 3rd person. Thank you.
All right, so the first 2 questions that were received prior to 12 noon today, copies of questions have been circulated to councillors. They're both received from Mr Ian Hundley. Do you join us this evening, Mr Hundley? Yes, you do. Good evening to you. Question 1 relates to the demolition of the Balwyn Leisure Centre. Thank you for your question. This question is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules, and the question reads as follows. Is the Victorian Government's policy decision to expand the availability of early learning also now a factor in the continuing occupation of the former Balwyn Leisure Centre at 260 Balwyn Road, Balwyn North, and earlier indications that this area in the Gordon Barnard Reserve would ultimately be converted by Council to open space? I will call upon the Director of Places and Spaces, Mr Daniel Freer, to provide a response to this, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Council regularly renews kindergarten and early learning centres to ensure suitable learning environments for our young people. The kindergarten projects were foreshadowed for renewal before the state government's announcement of kindergarten reforms. The state government reforms is placing additional pressure on community-owned infrastructure. Any kindergarten capacity required to meet anticipated demand requires additional infrastructure investment and may prolong periods where kindergartens require relocation. Council will only deliver additional works to that planned, and should grant funding be provided to meet the state reforms by the state, it may at that point. Balwyn Leisure Centre has been identified as a suitable temporary location to enable nearby kindergartens to operate while existing infrastructure is renewed. Council remains committed to the demolition and conversion to open space as part of future works.
Thank you, Mr Freer. Mr Hunley, you'll receive a written response to your question in due course. Question 2, also from Mr Hunley. The subject is public availability of council tender documents. Thank you for your question. The original question did not include a completed contract documents and, sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. Sorry, a section of the question was contextual and will not be read. The question has been amended to comply with the requirements of the governance rules. And the amended question is as follows. Will Council arrange for tender and completed contract documents to be made available to members of the public on the Council website rather than through the vendor panel marketplace? So as the question did not include completed contract documents and only inquired as to tender documents, a response along those lines will be provided by the Acting CFO, Sapphire Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Council, along with many other Victorian councils, utilises vendor panel to manage our tendering processes for all tendering requirements. E-tendering software is used as an essential tool to ensure probity during the tendering process. Council requires an avenue to identify all parties who have downloaded Council's tender documents, so that should there be any amendments to tender documents after they have been released, all potential tenderers can be notified of these. Should tender documents be available on Council's websites, we have no way of actually identifying who we must contact should there be any relevant amendments. We aim to ensure that all potential tenderers have the same information to enable a fair and equitable process. To view full tender documents, you are required to register within Vendor Panel, which is free. If you do not wish to register in Vendor Panel, a summary of the tender details can still be accessed via our website, and further information can be obtained via Council's procurement team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Mr Hunley, you will receive a written response in due course. The next 2 questions were received this evening after 12 noon today and are received from Dr Rose Saxon and relate to agenda item 7.3. I'll read these questions out, but a verbal response will not be provided this evening. It will be provided in writing in due course, as I understand it. Is that true? Question 1, will the consultant, is it Alluvium? Yes. Report be made available to residents who had input to the project consultation, please? And question 2, also in relation to agenda item 7.3, which is the opportunities for management of Back Creek East and Medlow Reserve. Will the Friends of Back Creek East be established as discussed during the project, i.e. to assist with reserve and creek management? So thank you, Dr Saxon. You will receive a reply in writing. And the final question this evening is from Mrs Mary Drost. And I've seen Mrs Drost here this evening. Mrs Drost, your question will not be allowed this evening because it doesn't relate to a matter on the agenda, and simply asks, why are you not protecting heritage areas? You'll receive a response in writing, no doubt. Thank you for your question, and we'll discuss a little bit more about heritage in general business, I believe, so you might be interested to stay. So I believe, Mr Wee, that brings us to the end of public question time. Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda, notices of motion. Mr Wee, do we have any?
No notices of motion this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 7 is the presentation of officer reports. I have circulated this afternoon a proposal. I don't know if any councillor has any issues with the order of the agenda or wishes to flag a particular item for discussion or questions for officers. But if not, I suggest that items 7.2, 7.3 and 7.4 could be moved on block, if there was a willingness to do so. Councillor Addis.
I'm happy to move that we move those motions on block as you suggested, those items, sorry.
Thank you. And Councillor Hollingsworth?
I support that, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to that? No? Then I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. That brings us to item 7.1, which is the temporary occupation of the former Baldwin Leisure Centre. This item will be introduced by Christine White, Manager of Capital Projects, and I also have Daniel Freer, our Director, here.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the council-owned Baldwin Leisure Centre, located at 230 Baldwin Road, was originally intended to be demolished following completion of works at the Burundara Sports Complex in 2016. Since this time, the facility has been utilised by numerous community groups as a temporary accommodation solution. The Baldwin Leisure Centre is suitable to be licensed as a childcare and kindergarten facility and able to accommodate, at low cost, a range of community services during their building renewal works. Council resolved in August 2021 to support the use of the centre to accommodate Through Road Early Learning Centre and Canterbury Community Precinct and receive a budget bid for the demolition of the building as part of the 22-23 budget process. Due to construction market pressures impacting Council's budget and competing priorities, consideration of the 22-23 budget bid did not receive sufficient support for its inclusion. As part of Council's long-term financial plan, a number of kindergarten building renewal projects are foreshadowed, of which 4 sites are approximately within 3 kilometres of the centre. These sites are spatially constrained and temporary accommodation may be required within nearby open space to meet service requirements. As such, this report has identified these 4 projects in need of temporary accommodation, and our analysis shows the use of the Baldwin Leisure Centre is the most cost-effective way forward. Estimated total savings to Council of between 1.5 to 1.8 million are forecast due to the avoided need to procure, fit out, licence and maintain temporary portable accommodation for early year services for the duration of each renewal project. The 4 sites, which could be accommodated at the former Baldwin Leisure Centre pending Council approval, includes JJ McMahon Memorial Kindergarten, Deep Dean Preschool, Glass Street Kindergarten and Bellevue Kindergarten. Council remains committed to the demolition of the former Baldwin Leisure Centre and conversion to open space, in addition to the effective use of Council resources. As such, following the delivery of these kindergarten renewal projects, demolition of the BLC, the Baldwin Leisure Centre, and conversion of the site to public open space is proposed to be considered as part of Council's long-term financial plan. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions for officers? Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No question at this stage, but I'd like to foreshadow a motion at the appropriate time.
Certainly. There are no further lights on, so now might be that time.
I'd actually like to move an alternative motion to the officer's recommendation, and I'd like to lay it on the table and seek colleagues' support in laying it on the table.
So in essence, that means a deferral of this agenda item.
That'd be correct.
And the alternate motion, do we want to display that now or do we want to? No? Bear with me, I don't think we need to.
I think it's fairly straightforward that we're laying it on the table.
Yep, I agree. Yep, thanks. Councillor Park?
Councillor Park.
Happy to second?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to that at this juncture? It appears not. Then I'll put that motion. All those in favour? I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. And for the public who join us this evening, that item will be deferred until a future meeting. A date is yet to be determined on that one. Thank you, officers. Councillor Watson, your light is still on. Is there something else you would like to raise? No worries. That brings us to item 8, general business. Councillors, are there any items of general business this evening? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With Council's indulgence, I would like to talk about the Australian Heritage Festival month in Victoria. The National Trust month-long Australian Heritage Festival commences tomorrow. This is a wonderful variety of events that will be held across Victoria and Boroondara from the 18th of April to the 18th of May to help us share and talk about our passions and fascinations within our heritage through tales of knowledge that's been passed down. Culture heritage is about sharing our stories, traditions, languages, places, objects and buildings, and what makes them so important to us. And without the stories and the history from those who pass them on, how would the memories be retained and how do they touch our lives? This festival is an opportunity to foster an understanding of our shared histories and invite learning and participation to develop a further appreciation of our cultural heritage. Since starting the municipal-wide Heritage Gap Study in 2016, Council have added more than 5,000 properties to the Heritage Overlay, which has taken the total net to 15,000 properties that are afforded protection. This protects them from demolition and inappropriate development. Places protected include individually significant heritage properties, precincts and extensions to existing precincts. This has increased 50% and puts Boroondara at the top 3 councils in Victoria for heritage protection. And I think that's something that we should all be very proud of. Our libraries are delivering a festival through the month, and starting tomorrow with Camberwell, the Family History Group and the Kew Library will be hosting a session and sessions on building styles and architecture. There are a couple of heritage and history groups running events, including history walks, across this month as well. I encourage you all to look at the website and invite you to share your historic stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. If there are no other items of general business around the table, I have 2 that I would briefly like to mention. The first is the 3rd anniversary of the Eastern Freeway tragedy. On Wednesday, the 22nd of April, we will honour the 4 police officers who tragically lost their lives on the Eastern Freeway in 2020. Constable Glenn Humphris, Constable Josh Presney, Leading Senior Constable Lynette Taylor and Senior Constable Kevin King. The clock tower at Hawthorn Arts Centre will be lit up in blue on that evening as a mark of respect and to pay condolences to their family, friends and the staff of Boroondara Police Complex and the wider Victoria Police community. We thank them for all of the important work they do every day to keep our community safe. The next item is in relation to Anzac Day, which is coming up within the next week. On Anzac Day, we recognise and commemorate the sacrifices of our servicemen and servicewomen in the First World War and every conflict Australia has participated in since. Their efforts have created the freedoms that we enjoy today. I encourage our community to consider attending one of the dawn services taking place across Boroondara, lest we forget. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to add to that celebrated with the City of Whitehall, City of Boroondara attend the Wattle Park Heritage Group Anzac commemoration service that's held on Sunday the 22nd and it's at 1 p.m. And sorry, it's actually Sunday the 23rd and it commences at 1 p.m. So for anyone that's not able to attend a dawn service on Anzac Day, they may like to attend the one at Wattle Park. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be there. I think you will too. No other items of general business, then I'll move to urgent business. Are there any items of urgent business? There appear to be none. Confidential business. Are there any items of confidential business? There appear to be none. That therefore brings us to the end of this evening's agenda. So thank you to those who have joined us both online and in the council chamber this evening. Stay safe, and I declare the council meeting closed at 7 p.m.